Hey, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to do another Stephen King September video for you guys. This is a video series that I have been doing this month because I am celebrating Stephen King's 75th birthday, which is on the 21st of this month. So yeah, I decided to do some Stephen King themed videos, and this is the third video, I think. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about some Stephen King books that I definitely want to reread for one reason or another, so let's dive in. So as I think I've said in the previous Stephen King video that I did, I've read about a little over 50 of his books, so I still have quite a few that I have not read. Who knows, I might eventually want to reread those. I definitely am not one, I think, who is going to reread every single book. I know there are booktubers out there that do Stephen King stuff that have reread all of his books multiple times, and that's great, but I'm not one of those people. There are a handful, though, that I do want to reread for different reasons. This is interesting that I said different reasons, because the first one I'm going to talk about is different seasons. Well, I totally didn't plan that. I want to reread this. This is a novella collection, and the reason I want to reread this is because I highly, highly enjoyed it. This is the collection that has The Body, which is what the movie Stand By Me is based on. It has Rita Hayworth in Shawshank Redemption, which the movie Shawshank Redemption is based on. Apt Pupil, which to me, I wouldn't say it was my favorite of this collection because they're all so good. Because then The Breathing Method is the fourth one. All four of these novellas are outstanding. And Apt Pupil, though, was the one, I think, that just kind of messed me up mentally the most. And one that I definitely want to revisit, though I want to revisit all of them. They are all really good. And the thing is, I look back on my Goodreads, I gave this 4 stars. And now I don't know why I did that. Like, I feel like I underrated it. I feel like it should be a 5-star. So I don't know why, but I definitely want to reread all of the novellas in here because, like I said, they are all like top-notch amazing. The next one that I want to reread is because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I may have been a little harsh with this book when I first read it and rated it. And I feel like maybe a reread may change my feelings about it because I'm at a different place in life and so forth, but I don't know. And that is Carrie. I kind of talked about this a little bit in my tops and bottoms Stephen King video that I did, because I didn't enjoy this very much. I gave it 2 stars, and now I'm kind of like, maybe that was a little harsh. Maybe it does have some merits that I just for some reason wasn't picking up on the first time around. And so I kind of want to give it a reread just to make sure that my feelings about it haven't changed. So I guess we'll see. The next one that I want to reread is another one that I want to reread because I think I don't know if it's because like popular opinion has now made me think that maybe I was, again, a little harsh. I gave this book 3 stars. To me, it was good. I liked it, but it wasn't like amazing. But now I'm like, having read more of his stuff and everything, I feel like maybe I should reread it because I think it would probably get a higher rating if I gave it a second read, and that is The Shining. And I know a lot of people, this is like in their top 5. They love The Shining. They love the movie The Shining, which also isn't my favorite horror movie. I know a lot of people rave about that movie. It has some good moments. It has some good acting. But then there were things I felt like that kind of fell flat a little bit, especially having read this, because I had never seen The Shining until I read this. And so I had different feelings about it. I think the book represents something different than the movie. But the book, I don't know. I liked the atmosphere. I liked the feeling of isolation, especially because I remember when I first read this, I did purposely read it in like the dead of winter because I was like, I want to feel like I'm isolated, like I'm in the hotel with the characters, you know, I'm locked up with them, you know, going through this with them. And so I did like that, the atmosphere. But I don't know. I don't know why I gave it 3 stars. I feel like I feel like it should have got a better rating. So, and that maybe I was too harsh. So I do definitely want to reread this one. The next one that I want to reread is one because it's a favorite. And I always say it's my favorite most of the time because it does kind of switch between 2 of his books. But I've only read it 1 time. So now I'm like, okay, you say it's your favorite, but is it really? Is it gonna hold up? Because I read this book for the first time and the only time, like 20 years ago. And so maybe it's not as good as I remember, and that's it. And I have a feeling though, that upon reread, this is still gonna get 5 stars for me. It's still gonna be one of my favorites because it just has everything in it that I love in a book. Not just a Stephen King book, not just a horror book, but just like a book. It has really great characters. It examines friendships and friend groups. Obviously, it's got the scary stuff. It's got the coming of age stuff. The story in the past takes place in the 50s in America, which is the 60s, as you guys know, is a time period I love. But the 50s, you know, close to the 60s. So it has that sort of nostalgia. So what's interesting about this is when I first read it, absolutely loved it, blown away, 5 stars. I flew through this even though it's over 1,000 pages long. And then I got on BookTube, like when I started my channel, and there were so many people that knocked this book because of one scene towards the end. And if you've read the book, you know what scene I'm talking about. It has to do with the kids, that's all I'm gonna say. That they were so disgusted by, some of them, that they the book went from like a 5-star to a 3-star, or even down to a 2-star, because that particular scene was so hated. And people, and when I would watch those videos where people talked about that, I, to be honest, had completely forgotten that whole scene. It had no impact on me. It did not disturb me. Like I said, I didn't even remember it. So I'm like, what does that say about me? Or would I feel about it, would I feel differently about it now? Because at the time when I read it, I was a teenager. So I'm like, now that I'm an adult and I have kids, would I be disturbed by this? Would it affect me like it seems to have affected a lot of people that read this book as adults for the first time? Because that also seemed to be the thing. A lot of the people that I saw that really hated that scene were reading it for the first time as adults. I don't know. So now I'm curious, like, is it that prominent? I don't know. I don't think it's going to have much of an effect on my overall feeling. Because like I said, this is a 1,000-page book in one little scene. Because there's a lot of disturbing stuff in this book. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that can, affect people. And that are disturbing and violent and, everything. So, but I am curious how I'm going to process that particular scene. So yeah. I definitely need to reread this. It's way past due. I'm way past due to reread this book. Speaking of hating certain scenes in Stephen King books that affect your rating, I'm next going to talk about Cujo, which is the book about the rabid dog. They also made it into a movie. Basically, that's the story. A mom and her son are trapped in this car. I believe it was a Pinto. And they're outside the car is a rabid dog. And they're trapped and it's hot. And yeah, it's pretty intense. And I gave the book 3 stars. And the reason I gave it 3 stars, knocked a star off for sure, was because of the ending. I hated the way it ended. I did not like it. I was mad at Stephen King. And again, this was early adulthood, I think, when I read Cujo. So I wasn't a parent yet or anything. But I did not like the way that book ended, to the point that it affected my rating of the book. And I feel like, again, I may have been a little harsh and that I need to reread it because again, I don't know if I should base an entire reading experience on one event, although it was pretty significant. So yeah, because I think besides that, it was a solid story. It was intense. It dealt a lot with kind of fate, serendipity, consequences, how certain things put you in a certain place, and like kind of like a wrong place, wrong time, wrong place, however you say that kind of situation. So it had good themes, it had good characters, it had a lot of good things. So I'm like, why was I so harsh? So that's another one that I think I need to reread because I actually might enjoy it more the second time. And then the last book, well, it's not really a book, it's a series. I want to reread The Dark Tower. I mean, because I have read The Gunslinger twice, which is weird because I actually don't like this book very much, but it's necessary. I always tell people that even if you read The Gunslinger and you don't like it, you got to keep going because the books get a lot better. But yeah, I obviously read this for the first time a long time ago, and then just in the last 5 years since I started my channel, I reread it. I listened to the audiobook for a readathon, I think it was, and I don't know why I did that because now I'm like, I'm gonna have to read it a third time to reread the whole series. But I want to reread this because if you guys have read The Dark Tower, you know how it ends and that it makes you want to go back and just reread everything again. And so I really enjoyed this series. I thought, again, besides this book is like one of those you have to just, you gotta just force yourself through it. It's not very long. Does this not have page numbers? Oh my gosh. Oh, okay, so it's like 250 pages, so not horrible. But the overall series kind of blew me away. I really, really loved it. And specifically the third book, The Wastelands, is my favorite. That book was just awesome. Everything about it was just awesome. And just where the story goes and the overall themes. The fact that it's like a fantasy series, and I don't normally read fantasy because I find it intimidating. It plays a lot with like time and alternate worlds and things like that. And I just absolutely love it. So I have been meaning, I got the whole box set in the last couple of years because I really want to revisit these books. So I'm going to start with The Gunslinger and just get it over with, just rip off the Band-Aid so I can get to the good stuff. And some of you might disagree. Some of you might say, The Gunslinger's amazing, like you're crazy. That's just my opinion. So anyways, yeah, I need to reread this very, very soon because I think I finished the series. It's been at least like 10 to 15 years. So it's time, because I also feel like it would be nice to refresh myself with the series, become reacquainted, because he does have a lot of Dark Tower Easter eggs and a lot of his work that for the most part I think I pick up on because I have read it at least once, but I feel like a reread would definitely be a good idea. The other thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about it, I remembered when I was talking about The Dark Tower, is there's a huge Dark Tower connection in it that I wanted to mention because obviously I'm not going to mention the connection because that would be really dumb, but I read it for the first time before I had read any of the Dark Tower books, and because that there is such a big connection, I totally missed it. It totally went over my head when I read it. But when I was reading the Dark Tower series and I came across that connection, I was like, oh my gosh, it makes so much more sense now. So now that's another kind of reason why I think reading this and this over again, I will have like a different feeling, I think, just overall about how this ended and what like that sort of connection was, because like I said, at the time, I had no idea what was going on because I had not read the Dark Tower series. So, okay, that's another reason. Yeah. Okay guys, so those are some Stephen King books that I want to reread, either because they were my favorites and I love them, or because I felt like I was being a little bit harsh with my ratings and feel like they deserve a reread because they did have good merits. So yeah, that's it. Let me know down below if there's a Stephen King book that you want to reread or give another shot to. Because I would love to know, and especially if it's any of the books I mentioned in this video. So okay, that's it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.